He's essentially saying that he was watching television and he saw Andrew Napolitano, who's a contributor over there, who, by the way, is also a 9/11 truther and a favorite of Alex Jones, and essentially said when he hears a conspiracy theory out of a commentator on Fox, he believes it.
He said what wasn't true. He told a big fib, and for 2 weeks he tried to cover it up. This is the sad, embarrassing fact of the president. It started with an early morning tweet from Mar-a-Lago that his predecessor had wiretapped his home. The president and his interpreters then doubled down, defying all evidence to the contrary. They insisted Donald Trump was right. They cited blogs, overseas news accounts, and conspiracy theories. And yesterday, Press Secretary Sean Spicer quoted one of those nonsensical conspiracies.
On Fox News on March 14th, Judge Andrew Napolitano made the following statement, quote, 3 intelligence sources have informed Fox News that President Obama went outside the chain of command. He didn't use the NSA, he didn't use the CIA, he didn't use the FBI, and he didn't use the Department of Justice. He used GCHQ. What is that? It's the initials for the British intelligence spying agency. So simply by having 2 people saying to them, President needs transcripts of conversations involving candidate Trump's conversations involving President-elect Trump, he's able to get it, and there's no American fingerprints on this.
Well, not surprisingly, our allies in Britain didn't like being used as alibis. In an unusual move, the intelligence agency Spicer cited, the GCHQ, put out a statement today debunking the whole story. It said, quote, recent allegations made by media commentator Judge Andrew Napolitano about GCHQ being asked to conduct wiretapping against then-President-elect are nonsense. They are utterly ridiculous and should be ignored. Well, the Prime Minister's office went even further, quote, we've made clear to the administration that these claims are ridiculous and should be ignored. We've received notices these allegations won't be repeated. Well, some British media reported the White House apologized. Spicer said not so. He told reporters today, I don't think we regret anything. We literally listed a litany of media reports that are in the public domain. Well, today in a joint press conference with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, President Trump was asked about his wiretapping claims twice by German reporters. The questions heading in were, would he stick to his phony tweet that President Obama wiretapped him, which has since been rejected by Republican and Democratic leaders in the House and Senate? And would he apologize for his spokesman's claim that British intelligence spied on Trump Tower? Well, the answer was no to both questions.
As far as wiretapping, I guess, by, this past administration, at least we have something in common, perhaps. We said nothing. All we did was quote a certain very talented legal mind who was the one responsible for saying that on television. I didn't make an opinion on it. That was a statement made by a very talented lawyer on Fox. And so you shouldn't be talking to me. You should be talking to Fox.
Anyway, but Fox News wouldn't cover for him. Fox News anchor Shepard Smith responded to President Trump's attempt to pass blame. Let's watch him.
Fox News cannot confirm Judge Napolitano's commentary. Fox News knows of no evidence of any kind that the now President of the United States was surveilled at any time in any way, full stop.
Well, good for Shepard. Anyway, Ken Delaney is an NBC News investigative reporter. Simon Marks is chief correspondent for Feature Story News. And Joy Reid, of course, is my friend, the host of AM Joy and MSNBC. Joy, I want to ask you about this, to just look at this incisively as you can. Why would the president say something that wasn't true in a tweet 2 weeks ago, and when he could have backed out of it and said, I heard something, I probably shouldn't have jumped on it, I did, instead doubled down, tripled down again today, and standing next to Angela Merkel, a serious government leader, a serious person, stood next to her and wouldn't answer the question the first time it came from a German reporter. The second time he came on, he blamed it all on somebody we never heard of, this guy Napolitano, this conspiracy guy. He just seems to be stuck in quicksand, and the more he squirms, the more he sinks. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and the more he sinks, the more he decides to drag his own team down into the muck with him. He's forcing Sean Spicer to get up and shred his own credibility, repeating what are essentially conspiracy theories. And by the way, blaming it on Fox News is probably being too nice to the president and what he's doing, because what he did was he blamed a commentator on Fox News, not even their reporters. He's essentially saying that he was watching television and he saw Andrew Napolitano, who's a contributor over there, who, by the way, is also a 9/11 truther and a favorite of Alex Jones, and essentially said when he hears a conspiracy theory out of a commentator on Fox, he believes it rather than picking up the phone and calling all of the agencies in intelligence who report to him. He could call the NSA director. He could call the CIA director. These people report to him. So what he's saying is that sight unseen, without even doing any basic investigation by calling his subordinates who work for him in the intelligence community, he buys the conspiracy theory out of a commentator on Fox. But it's the commentator's fault that he repeated it in a series of tweets. This is insane. It really cannot be that this is what the President of the United States does.
We're on the same page on this one. By the way, I'm green with envy for your sweater today. Green.
Thank you.
And by the way, I love it as a tribute to all the good people.
So that's close enough to being Irish.
That's a good name. It's a good name. I appreciate the good spirit of it, and it is well received by all of us. Anyway, thank you, Ken. You're the expert on this. Let's go through it. The House Intelligence Republican leader, the Senate Intelligence Republican leader, the Democrat ranking members on both of them, the Speaker of the House, all kinds of information coming in from the agencies now, tonight, everywhere. There is no bugging. There was no wiretapping. It didn't happen. There was no British wiretapping on his behalf. There was no U.S. government wiretapping. It didn't happen, according to Comey as well. There is no source except Trump.
And there's one more bit of news tonight, Chris. The Justice Department presented some documents today to the intelligence committees pursuant to a request. Hey, is there any evidence? Give us all the documents related to surveillance at Trump Tower. And a congressional source tells me that an initial reading of that shows, again, no evidence to support.
Okay, explain it. Go, jump out of your ken, your expertise, and explain why the president won't accept truth. Why does he continue to sell something that's, I think Joe Biden, I was with him this morning for St. Patrick's Day, would say malarkey. It is malarkey. It
may be because he believes that at the bottom of this, there is some evidence of some surveillance of Trump associates in Russia, which has been reported.
But that's not what he's charging. He isn't saying my Trump Tower was picked up on because they were surveilling the Russians because of all the activity the Russians have been involved in our intelligence agencies, all 17. We all know that. But what we don't know, and there's no evidence of, President Obama wiretapped him and Trump. Is that true? Why would he keep saying something that isn't true? Or is he going to broaden his claim to, well, that includes any intelligence gathered on behalf of from the Russians that might have picked up something from me? By the way, that might even not. How do we know that's even true?
That would be a felony, just as President Obama ordering a wiretap of President or candidate Trump. For President Obama to ask the British to surveil a U.S. person would be a crime. So I guess they should order a Justice Department investigation.
Or to order anybody but our normal, but to go through FISA and go through the FBI would be a crime.
Absolutely.
You can't have another group of plumbers like Nixon had.
And this is a very close intelligence sharing relationship, and this could do real damage. I mean, the British are not happy with these allegations.
Okay, let me get to the diplomacy aspect of this. I mean, there was talk in Britain today that there was an apology, but there's no confirmation from this crowd. Trump won't say apologize. Spicer won't say apologize. So somebody heard something whispered over the phone today that sounded sort of like an apology.
So we know there was a phone call. We know there was a phone call between Sean Spicer and an angry British ambassador, at which the British government then intimated some kind of regret or apology.
Well, they said they wouldn't do it again.
Communicated, and they said they wouldn't repeat these allegations again. But
you don't have to repeat an allegation again. You do it, and people believe it.
This has been deeply alarming to people in London because of what it says about what's actually happening in this city. Donald Trump is playing here from a classic authoritarian playbook. He brooks no dissent. I take slight issue with what Joy said at the beginning of the programme about, Sean Spicer being forced to go into the briefing room. Sean Spicer goes into that briefing room voluntarily every day, allows his own credibility to be shredded every single day, defiles the office of the White House press secretary because he won't go into the Oval Office, close the door quietly and say, Mr. President, I just can't go out there and defend this anymore. If you're going to make me do it, I have to hand you my resignation. So the Brits and Angela Merkel and the others look at this and say, how can we build any kind of relationship of trust when this kind of...
Okay, we're having a philosophical discussion, Joy. I know exactly what you mean. In other words, the price of truth in this case is walking. That's right. That's what Simon's saying, and you're saying, I think, as well. You got to walk. It's existential.
I 100% agree with that. There's a Baghdad Bob quality to what Sean Spicer is doing every day, because essentially he has two choices. He can repeat the insane conspiracy theories that Donald Trump is admitting that he gets from a 9/11 truther who sometimes appears as a commentator on Fox. He can go out there and put his own name and as Simon just said, the credibility of the White House press office behind that idea, this crazy conspiracy theory from the comment sections. Or he can leave, because Donald Trump clearly, in classic authoritarian style, wants everyone associated with him, everyone who works for him, to parrot and repeat the madness rather than disabuse him of it. And there's no one in that government that we've been able to see so far who has the strength, who has the courage to either try to walk him back from these insane beliefs, these conspiracy theories, or to quit. And so we are stuck now in this feedback loop where the credible press has to sit in that room and listen to Sean Spicer essentially quote the comment sections of blogs, of fever swamp blogs, essentially, because that's who believes this stuff. And Donald Trump.
Not only that, Joy, but he added the encomium that this guy's a brilliant attorney, that this is some sort of oracle of Delphi that's giving him all this information.
He thinks 9/11 was an inside job. That is he's on the record with Alex Jones on his radio show saying a previous president also committed a massive war crime, essentially, and did 9/11.
W was down in Washington with the plunger. Yeah, anyway.
Here's why this is so damaging. There may come a time when President Trump has to tell the world he's launching military action against North Korea.
Or he has to give evidence.
Absolutely.
Remember when Kennedy had to give evidence about the Cubans, the missiles in Cuba? And the whole world had to believe us because we only had just the pictures. And he calls up de Gaulle, who could be difficult, the president of France, the war hero, of course. And de Gaulle says, of course I believe you. Would that happen today?
Absolutely.
Of course I believe you.
There's real doubts about whether it would happen. I mean, he's already a wartime president. We're conducting raids in Yemen. We're dropping bombs in Iraq and Syria. The world has to believe what the president of the United States
Even
says.
Republicans are having shudders. I think Joy's right. It's not just the people working for him, the flacks. Republicans really have a problem with this guy. A growing chorus of Republicans and conservatives are calling on the president to simply back down. U.S. Congressman Tom Cole of Oklahoma told reporters today, frankly, unless you can produce some pretty compelling proof, then I think the president, President Obama, is owed an apology in that regard. How's that for forthright thinking? And the conservative Wall Street Journal, I couldn't believe the editorial this morning. Right in the middle of the editorial page was this editorial. As for Mr. Trump's accusation, White House spokesman Sean Spicer says he stands by it. Mr. Trump would be wiser to say he fired the tweet in anger and walk it back. An apology can be good for the soul and a presidency.
No, absolutely. Look, this is a week in which his own ambassador to the United Nations, appearing on the Today program yesterday, a woman who has been very outspoken in her new role, Nikki Haley, criticizing the Russians relentlessly, when pressed by Matt Lauer as to whether, when she says those things, she is reflecting the president's thinking, says, oh, I don't know about that. So what's a foreign government supposed to...
What does that mean? I didn't know Nikki Haley did that.
What is an international government supposed to deduce from that? That when the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations speaks, she does not necessarily reflect the thinking of the man who sent her there. If you're an
who does she represent?
If you're a foreign government, you look at that.
Well, who
say,
does she represent?
Her own personal view.
Well, I get a lot more faith in Nikki Haley than some of the other people around this town. Anyway, thank you, Ken Delaney and Simon Marks, and of course, Joy Reid. Happy weekend. It's great you made the show so far. Coming up, Secretary of State. I always say so far, but you were great. Obviously, Rex Tillerson says diplomacy with North Korea has failed. Well, what's that mean? The Secretary of State's job is talking. The top diplomat's supposed to do that. He's not supposed to give up. He's supposed to be doing the diplomacy. Anyway, for this country, and that's ahead. Plus,